Are we about ready to get started?
No, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it is. 5 o'clock. All right. I'd like to call to order the Shade Tree Commission meeting dated May 5th, 2023, 5 o'clock. Heather, could we have a roll call?
Sure. Miss Adams,
Here.
Mr. Vanicolo,
Here.
Miss Wagner,
Here.
Mr. Tomasco, Mr. Rice. Okay, we do have a quorum.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you. All right, could we pause for a moment of silence and then stand for Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, if we could stand, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so item 4.1, consider approving the agenda. I'd like to suggest that we move item 9 to right after approval of the minutes. Does anyone have objection to that? Then that way we can give Mr. Gade and Mr. Nolan a chance to get out of here before they have to attend their next meeting. Any objection there?
Sounds good.
Okay, so do I have a motion to consider approving the minutes from today with that change? Okay, all right, thank you. All in favor? Aye. All right.
Aye.
Okay, all right. So, do we have any public comments for the agenda items? No? Okay. And then item 6, consider approving the minutes from the April 27, 2023 meeting. You have a chance to take a look at those. Thank you for putting them together, Carol. They looked good to me. How about you, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 27, 2023? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and let's move on then to land development review. And I believe Mr. Gade is here to help answer some of the remaining questions that we have. Yeah, if you would like to come up, please, welcome. Thank you. You can sit right there. Do you want to get him a, I think he's got one. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, I see that. Awesome. All right, great. Fantastic. All right, thank you. All right. Well, first, I'd like to thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. I think we're getting really close on buttoning up, I think, the remaining items of our concern. And I'd like to thank you again for meeting with us, Andy, John, and I on April 3rd, 2023. We really appreciate it. I can tell from the revised plans that you took our recommendations and considerations of our concerns seriously, and greatly appreciate the revisions to avoid a lot of the impacts to, especially to the trees over 30 inches DBH. So that was very appreciative, as well of course, I think the removal of lot 18 from the plan, from the development plan, goes a long way, I think, to also help preserve a lot of the trees that we have here in the township. So I do appreciate that. And through those efforts, you've protected, it looks like 19 trees. So that, and that really brought down the number of replacement trees that you had to provide. So I think that was definitely a mutual benefit there. However, we do have a few remaining concerns, and I believe, like I mentioned at the onset, I think we're close, but we have some remaining questions, particularly with respect to sediment basin 3. We took a look at sheet 26 from revision 8. And I had sent an email to John. John forwarded that email to you because I took a look at version 7. I appreciate this update. We haven't had a ton of time to review this, so if we're flipping back and forth, I would appreciate your patience and understanding as we go through this. On sheet 26, if you look at basin 3, you want to zoom into the end there, Heather, that would be great.
We get name and everything for minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. How about this?
Yeah.
We have a question. We have a join.
Up a little bit. Mhm. Scooch it over a little. Great.
There's driving, Andy's steering.
This is great. Perfect. Thank you. So I appreciate the updated inventory of the trees that are located within the area of Basin 3 and as well as the pipeline corridor. You've indicated that there are a number of trees that need to come out, which, with talking with John, that seems to purport with what he views from the information that he has. And my question though is that when we asked about Basin 3 and the potential impacts to trees as a result of Basin 3, it seems like if you look at an aerial, and I'm using Google Maps, and I could see a line of trees, and so I have that on, I think you have that there on your table there. And I was just wondering if you could please provide some insight on those trees and what they are. Are they not 6 inches, and that's why they weren't included, DBH, or is there another reason why they weren't on the inventory?
Everything, what we did is we went back out there and we were trying to identify the trees that were going to be disturbed. The only trees that are going to be disturbed with respect to Basin 3 would be when the pipe comes down the steep slopes.
Mm-hmm.
The intention of Basin 3 has been and always has been to stay out of the tree line.
Okay.
That's why we put tree protection along there. So we only identified in the areas where the pipe was because we knew that's where the disturbance was. So that's why we included it. You showed, I think in this area, you showed like a linear bunch of trees up in here. You had them in the wrong location. They're actually at the what's shown on the aerial is actually at the very top of the line. So it's not the ones in the middle. See
Okay. Yep.
So that's them. And then, like I said, the ones along the tree line, the intention is that if we're not bringing a pipe into them, we're not disturbing.
Right.
And to kind of reinforce that, during the construction sequence, the first thing we do is we put up a tree protection fence. So what usually happens is you put the tree protection fence up and the contractors aren't allowed to disturb past that. Now, the basin you show, some of the contour lines that come close to the tree lines,
Right.
they're just fill lines for the toe of the slope.
Right.
We're not excavating, we're not doing anything. And I tried my best to kind of measure an area. I think I saw one area that was maybe close to about 5 or 6 feet from the clouded line. There was nothing more than just where the soil meets the soil.
Okay.
But our intention is we set that tree protection. They build the basin, and with the exception of digging the pipe on in the steep slopes through the woods, that's all the disturbance in that area that we're
Okay.
providing.
And they,
So I can't step. But the more inspection. Like 7 total trees.
Yeah, I know we have the count on, I can't see it either, John. But I'm pretty sure we have the count on there. And of course, I don't have my glasses on, so bear with me here.
6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
4,
I got
5,
6.
6, 7.
6 plus there's 2 down. There's 2 down by the
8.
discharge. of that.
Yeah, down the bottom.
So those 2 down at the bottom where the riprap's going to be placed, are those the trees that are in the, they're obviously in the riparian buffer.
Right.
So are those trees, so, well, we'll get to that, but I have a question about the state requirements. Just because I noticed on your latest email, it said that they have to, that the state is requiring to use the red maple, so Acer rubrum, as part of the riparian replacement vegetation. So I would just, and my questions are directed specifically at those trees. And so why is the state requesting that vegetation? Is it to offset some sort? Okay, can you explain that then?
Yeah, in the riparian buffer, what the state does, and the state doesn't say you have to, they don't have a tree count. They don't say any of that stuff. What they basically say is within the 150-foot riparian buffer,
Mhm.
whatever you're going to disturb, you come up with a square footage.
Okay,
And that square footage is what you have to replace. And then you have to replace riparian forested type shrubs and trees.
okay,
So that, if you look at the shaded area, on the north side, that takes care of about 3,000 square feet, which is about approximately 10 foot or 20 feet wide by 150 feet. And that's the disturbance in the riparian buffer for the big pipe going down.
okay,
And there's another disturbance that will most likely, it's only a 3-inch line, will most likely
Right.
be HDD, but still they consider it disturbance. And that we came up with, I think it was like 900 square feet.
okay,
So we made that 900 square feet on the southern side. And what we did is we just filled it with their suggestions of shrubs and trees. There was no count that says you got to put 3 or 4 or anything like that. They just
Okay.
said, make it a riparian forested wetland replacement area.
okay,
Which is actually a benefit to us, because most
Sure.
times those riparian buffer,
mhm,
which is,
okay,
so even though it's not alley as ordinance,
Mhm.
by square footage. it's still-
that's fine. Yeah, I wasn't saying that it wasn't consistent. I just didn't understand what it was. And could you do me a favor? I think part of the issue is that we're having at least I am anyway. I'm having trouble visualizing where it would be really helpful in the future to have an aerial with the project overlaid, particularly in these areas where there's trees. I know that's not a requirement of the ordinance. Maybe that's something that we can add later. But can you just like maybe roughly draw where, because so if these trees are that northern line, then where exactly is the basin? Because it didn't seem like it encroached into what is now the field.
Okay. First of all, aerials are tricky
I know.
because of shades, all that stuff like that. That's why we don't mind using them for reference. We don't like using them in design. So. Mind if I approach one of these screens?
Go ahead.
See this line up here, it's right here. This line of trees right along here, that's actually right along up here.
Okay.
And if these trees coming down here is the tree line right along here. And that's that tree.
Right.
And like I said, we used, not that we use this.
Right.
But what we did is when our surveys went out there, they said, okay, edge of forest. We connected the dots and we said, okay, that's what we're gonna stay.
So those trees.
Right. That- those trees, yeah. And the southern set of trees are these right here that we.
Gotcha, right. That one I found. I just couldn't figure out the point of reference for those trees. So thank you for that clarification. I think also, did you just scroll down just a smidge? Okay, it's not on this, but on the same figure, you have another kind of area that's delineated. It looks Okay, it's gonna sound very unprofessional. It looks like a cloud, but it's a vegetation outline. Is
I-
that just shrubs? or-
I'll tell you honestly, I believe it is because I went out there and if that's a tree, I walked right through it and right by it while I was looking for trees.
Okay,
So-
all right.
And the thing is, when we're just shooting perimeters, we're just, when the vegetation's big, we just say shoot it and we put it on there. So-
Okay, all right. That's helpful. Thanks. All right, so I think on the next page. So I was looking at, this is from version 7. And it's sheet 14, and it's the overall erosion control plan. And it shows that the riparian buffer is beyond the rectangles that you show for riparian replacement vegetation A and B. And so this one looks a lot bigger. So can you explain that shaded area for us, please?
The shaded area is just the dark shade in between the two basins.
Yes.
That's just areas that we're saying, well, we're taking that back to restorative nature, whatever it was before. It's, first of all, it's not even really that disturbed in between, but
Mhm.
what it is, we're basically saying we're taking that back to original, a mixture of meadows, ryegrass, and something else. It's a PADEP vegetation, seedling that they ask us to put back in certain places that we disturb.
Okay.
What that does, that impacts the stormwater management. They don't want you, a lot of times if you disturb meadow, they don't want you to put back grass. They want you to restore it back to what it was. And,
Sure.
and in those areas, it's not on anyone's private property. So
Mhm.
we say we take it back to restorative.
Okay, so that will remain as a meadow in that green open space.
Yeah,
there
it'll-
between
yep,
those.
yep.
Okay, so it won't be mowed or anything like that? Or is that-
No, as a matter of fact, most of this is going to be considered open space. We're gonna dedicate it, well, we're not gonna dedicate anything, I guess, to the township. It's all gonna be homeowners.
Okay,
But the idea is there's gonna be a dedication that you can't, there'll be restrictions. You
Okay, so
might
it's
mow it once a
restricted.
year,
okay,
maybe check for invasive species and stuff like that to
Okay.
make sure that doesn't come back.
okay, that's helpful. Thanks for that clarification. I just wasn't sure what that was. Okay, all right. So that takes care of, I think, those issues there. So, when we had talked in April, I had suggested that was it possible to horizontal directional drill that pipeline that's going down the steep slope, just because, for one, it's a steep slope. Doing the open trench is problematic. Taking out those trees to do the open trench could potentially increase erosion and those types of things, because that's one of the purposes of the shade tree ordinance, is to understand that trees serve to help ameliorate stormwater runoff. So their removal then would maybe potentially exacerbate that. So now, in your discussions with the state, is there something within the state's requirements that addressed that potential impact, or? what?
Anything we do.
Mhm.
Any disturbance we do falls under, especially once it's over an acre's worth of disturbance, falls within the NPDS requirements. And with the NPDS requirements, we have to get township engineer to approve it. We have to get the Delaware County Conservation District to approve it. And we have to get in this case, because of the watershed, we have to get PADEP to approve that. So that area is scheduled to, it's for erosion control. It's scheduled to have water bars placed on it. I don't know if you're familiar with water bars. It's typically what they do for linear construction in the state of Pennsylvania.
Okay,
And then afterwards, we put it back to, we won't be planting trees in there because there'll be a pipeline now, but we'll put it back to that wildflower or that kind of wetland, or no, I'm sorry, wetland is not the word I want to use.
meadow,
Meadow type condition, back to as much of restoration as it was previously, with the exception of the trees. And all of that is in the ENS, that, there's even a scope of how you construct it and when you protect it. There's even gonna be an erosion control matting put down while the vegetation is growing back to kind of keep it as, less erosive as possible.
Okay. So HDD is off the table.
The problem with HDD is it's the pipe. I have personally never seen anything greater than 18-inch HDD. I've done a lot of HDDs. And I guess they can do larger pipes, but the problem is it's the pipe type. You need steel pipes there, and these are not steel pipes. These are a different type of drainage pipes. And then the other thing about this is you're talking about, we have to put in, I think, 3 structures in there. So each pipe is only anywhere from 80 feet to something, and then you have to drop a structure in there. So you couldn't do that. But the bottom line is the type of pipe you're putting in, you could not pull that through in an HDD.
Okay.
The smaller one, the sanitary sewer on the lower one, they do HDD on that all the time.
Right.
So that one's all right.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, in my experience, I mean, you are able to do 36-inch pipes, but it's been in my review of oil and gas projects.
That's mostly, yeah, and they're steel pipes
Yeah.
welded, and
Right,
that's
right.
completely different. type of pipe.
Exactly. Okay, I understand that. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Also, so the riprap, how are you getting the riprap down to the bottom of the hill?
Every pipe has, although in this case, it doesn't have an easement because it's all open space, but what we do is we establish a 20-foot area. And you'll even see that in the detail for the water bar to say, okay, the construction of this pipe is going to be within a 20-foot area. That's going to be their path. The actual pipe run itself, it's 36 inches, 20 feet wide. So they'll have a 20-foot wide area to go down, bring it down there, excavate it. And you'll even see that when it comes down to the riprap, it's kind of a trapezoidal. So it's a little bit bigger, and everything stays within the disturbed area that we show on the plan.
Right, okay. So will trucks or backhoes or something be taking the materials down there that could, and the only reason why I'm asking, I'm looking at is there a potential for additional trees to be impacted due to the roots just from heavy equipment running over them? So that's what I'm sort of getting at.
Well, I'll be honest with you, usually means and method is what I usually leave to the contractor. I know when they don't like bringing heavy equipment down big hills, so they have a tendency to have the smaller equipment down there. So I'm not too sure what they're going to use.
Okay.
But the other thing I will say about this is when we send people out to do the tree survey in the area of the pipe, he mentioned that there was not a lot of trees down closer to it was more meadowish than trees, and most of the trees were kind of concentrated in the upper half of it. So my guess is the trees that you show that are adjacent to and the ones that are Xed out to be removed, I think that's about probably going to be the limit to what's going to be disturbed.
Okay. So, and then, so if we're doing open trench, then John, do you think that the limit of disturbance is adequate to account for potential indirect effects to the routes that would be adjacent to that pipeline corridor?
So 7 in. Or double.
Yes.
And then the other ones, I believe. Are not land.
Okay, okay, all right,
There's most of the time you have a 25 easement when you're doing pipeline or work, like cutting, there's a 25-foot barrier that they run by usually. I mean, some of the pipeline companies do 50, but most of the time they're just 25. Everybody stays within them. You get in big trouble if you go outside.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You're just asking for trouble. And they don't want to have to deal with stuff falling in the trench or whatever. They're
It's more work.
you stay in your scope of work. You're not going outside that. It's just more work of cleaning up and everything. Trust me. They don't want to do any more work than they have to.
And I will say that I think we're all aware of the township's concern for the trees.
Yeah.
So that'll be probably number one. They usually have a pre-construction meeting with everyone. I'm sure that's going to be like issue number one, get the tree protection around and protect the trees.
Okay.
Once the contractor knows that, like I said, he's not interested in causing more damage, so he'll do his best to keep within that tree protection.
absolutely.
I have a question on there the day you're laying.
Sure. I know usually pre-construction, the township will get a notice to go out there, so I'll do my best to make sure you're on that list, John.
Okay. All right. Right, great. Okay, well, I think that satisfies my questions, I think, related to basin 3. So,
I have one
go
question.
ahead. Yes, please.
They allotted lot 18.
Hmm?
Now, is that still considered a building lot, even though you deleted it from your plan?
No,
Could it be
no,
built-
it's gonna be open space.
It's considered open space, it can't be built on.
Correct.
That's,
And it will be always as part of the Stoney Knoll as green open space for Stoney Knoll.
That's how we show it on the
Okay.
plan. I assume that's how it's gonna go through approval from the PC and the board of supervisors also.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was a question I had. Thank you, Brent, asking. Great, fantastic. All right, let's see. So I guess my last remaining question is related to the replacement trees. So you show that, again, I'm still on, we're still on this figure, so that's fine. The bulk of them are on the private property in the back of the lots, which I'm all for. However, my only concern is that some of the species that are indicated, and I know this isn't like an as-built, so can you just confirm that the spacing of the trees related to the species that is being planted will be adjusted, I guess, per the needs of the species? So for instance, you're not going to put say like a sycamore like within 5 feet of another sycamore, you're going to account for that growth.
I am not a landscape architect. So I'll tell you right now, I don't know the difference. I will say that I think they grouped them together on the plan. If you want them to change it, I don't think any of that is a problem at all. Our main concern was of the replacement trees, where's the best place to put them? And then, after that, it's up to the township, I guess, to.
Okay, yeah, and it does seem like we have a lot of species on our list, and it seems like you selected a lot of similar species. Is there a way to increase maybe the biodiversity of those?
Like I said, I had my landscape architect go through your list and say,
Okay.
can you please just make sure that the trees on there are
All
complete?
right, so maybe. So could you confer with John about maybe, right, and then maybe consider adding maybe some additional species like the white oak, which are, very beneficial for pollinators and such. Right, okay. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, that sounds good. Okay. And so I appreciate that in the detail you indicated that or in the notes that sorry. Yeah. Thank you. That all replacement trees planted on private property shall be the responsibility of the owner and or the HOA in perpetuity. And I was wondering, my concern with having these trees be the responsibility of the homeowner is that once that homeowner gets CO, really there's nothing that would prevent them from being able to cut them down. And we've all put in a lot of work and energy in order to get these trees replaced. Mr. Nolan is going to spend a lot of money to put these trees in. So I don't think he would really want to have that risk of having them being removed. Is there a way that we could, instead of saying the homeowner and or the HOA, could it be the HOA be responsible for the maintenance and protection of those trees?
They're responsible.
Mhm.
Yeah, typically I don't.
And when the homeowners
Condo
association,
Condo associations, they don't,
Mhm.
they're not touching anything unless it's in their right of way or whatever like that. If it's a foot off, they're not touching. You know what I mean? Homeowners associations are, yeah, that's being common area.
So how then, I mean, there's options. There could be an easement that could be placed in the area where those replacement trees are. It could be some sort of restriction that runs with the property. The problem is that sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So if you're kind of understanding where we're coming from here. The point of having a replacement tree is to ensure that the tree that was cut down will be replaced, and it will, and when it grows up, replace that function and value of that tree. If we don't have any level of protection, I'm just really, so if we can't really assure that there's going to be some level of protection for those replacement trees, then I would suggest we need to find another location to put them. And what I would suggest, and what I would be, I mean, or at least minimize the number of trees that are on the private property. So, I mean, I think we all agree that the trees, some of the trees along Wayland Road are in kind of bad shape. Some of them are dead and dying. And I'm sure that as the entrance into this very lovely community, you don't want to have scraggly looking trees. I can completely appreciate that. So would it be possible then to maybe pull as many as possible off the private property and put them along Wayland Road?
Aren't we replacing the tree that we take down with 3 trees?
It depends on the
Depends on the
size
size.
of the
Could be more.
tree.
There's a formula. But it's based on size.
Yeah, so but for the most part, it's 3 trees.
Not in
Yeah.
all
No, but
cases.
yeah, you're right.
Okay, so putting back 3 to 1.
I realize that.
And I don't see people going, cutting the trees down in the back of their property. Boy, that's way, oh,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that, you know, when you plant these, the development's probably gonna take, what, 2-3 years to get final completion, get all your approvals. I mean, and then the township goes in and checks, correct, Andy, that the trees are still there and everything like that. By that time, these trees are planted and established. There's very little maintenance on them. I highly doubt someone's gonna go down and cut them down, just to cut them down. Like a street tree or a tree in their backyard, you know.
That's not been my experience.
Well, it's my experience that they don't. For the development.
The attorney just asked, you know, we're not attorneys.
Right.
Let's ask the attorney how we can put that in the.
Okay.
Put that in motion. Just make the motion. You can't make the lingo that goes on the plan. Make a motion.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. Let me see. Let me check my list. All right. I think that's all my questions. You have any questions?
Yes.
Carol?
I'm good.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Cindy Mahalo, 87 Hunters Run, EAC liaison to the Shade Tree Commission. I have just some comments and questions. I had also reviewed the landscape plan that came in this week and had a number of similar observations and comments that Trish has covered. So I would just kind of confirm some of the things she said is that I did notice that there was in the tree species, there was a preponderance of non-native trees and a lot of the same species. There were like 22 ginkgos and 46 London plane trees. And so there is a big difference in the habitat value of those, like a white oak tree will support 557 different species of moths and butterflies, whereas a ginkgo only supports 3. So I'm very appreciative of the fact that you're going to consider incorporating some other species from the list, like sassafras, Mrs. sylvatica, things like that. So John, I like your suggestion of no more than 10% of any particular type of tree. In terms of the tree placement, I know Trish had addressed that. And, you know, she talked about the placement of the trees being very close together, and sycamore trees, for example, are some of the largest trees you can plant. And my observation from a stormwater perspective was that, you know, having them so close together probably wasn't optimal for the trees themselves. The homeowners in 20 years might not be happy with having these big trees so close together. And also they were not always placed to provide optimal stormwater management benefits. And as Trish had suggested, you know, she was exploring the possibility of not having them all just in a row in the back of the property, although that's generally a good place. And I would echo her exploration of the possibility of putting some along Wayland Road just to get some larger canopy trees out there. I think it would enhance the aesthetic of the approach to the development and also give you some stormwater benefits along that road. And then a related thought was when you it's best viewed on the May 10th revision 7 sheet 14, where the engineer had talked about that dark shaded area. I have a copy of it here. You know, it's that the big dark shaded area that you said is the
Restorative.
site restoration area required by the DEP. And I know that you said that they do that like on they base it on a square foot formula, and they.
No, you don't understand. The disturbance in the repair 150 riparian buffer is the area where the two small areas, 3,000 square feet, and 9,000 square feet is where we planted the replacement for that
Okay.
area. The rest of the area, that is just DEP saying, okay, you want to disturb it. If you disturb it, put it back the way it was.
Okay. Okay.
And that has a stormwater management benefit to it.
Yes, which is great. And I have a question or comment about that. What would be the possibility of putting some trees in that area? Even though they weren't there before, is there anything that would prevent them being there if it's going to be open space anyway?
I don't have any reason why not to put them on there. I just, you know, we decided to put them along the edges. Because we thought it would be a nice buffer from the existing tree and existing houses along Hunt Valley, et cetera.
Well, it's just if when you go back to your landscape architect and talk about like how close the trees are together, like to space them out, if you're looking for somewhere to move some of them so that they're not placed too close. Two places that seem to be able to provide stormwater benefit would be along Wayland Road and in that irregular open space area.
I certainly think we take a look at it. There are a couple of storm sewers that go through that area too. So planting trees would.
Okay, because they're not shown on.
Because that is the ENS plan.
And it doesn't show everything.
No, we can't show everything on each plan. It gets a little.
Okay.
crazy.
Okay.
That's not to say we can't look at other areas to put it in, and maybe in those areas we can put it, but there are other considerations that we have to worry about.
Okay. And then to that point, the area that you said is going to be restored to where it was before. And you said that you'll replace it with some sort of vegetative meadow. And I know this is probably a question better directed to the landscaper. But it sounds like they'll be doing a seed mixture and, you know.
That's typically what they do. They do a
Okay.
seed mixture.
But knowing that there are many options, like a very reputable distributor of seed mixtures is Ernst Seed out of Western Pennsylvania. And they have many, many seed mixtures to choose from. And some have more habitat value.
That's what they'll be every time.
Yeah,
But that's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
what mixture will they choose?
the mixture is
Can it be
usually
optimized?
dictated by DEP. They have a list of, and it's even the mixture, there's a mixture chart for all the grasses and the meadow mix that we have. And it
Okay,
has to
so
get
DEP
approved by DEP.
specifies
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay, great, okay. I think that was good. All right. Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you, Cindy. Okay. So just to sort of recap, so I think or at least my, not his, my last concern is with some of those. I am concerned about the trees being on private property, just because there's nothing in the shade tree ordinance that would protect those. So if there's a way that we could minimize the number of trees that maybe are on the private property and consider some of those other options like we discussed, like maybe putting more along Wayland Road to improve the aesthetics, as well as maybe in some of those, if appropriate, to put in the site restoration area. I think that would be great. And then I guess work with John on
Species.
the spacing and
Okay,
okay. Okay,
yes.
Trees from past experience. Trees on Wayland Road aren't gonna get maintained where trees on people's property will get maintained.
or on people's, like it's gonna be on lot 1 and lot 1 and 17.
Can I ask a question, just because I live in an HOA and I was the landscape coordinator, so I have a lot of experience of maintaining trees and what's an HOA responsibility and what's a homeowner responsibility. Have you decided yet what will be common property, like what is the HOA going to maintain versus the homeowners?
I don't think we developed any of those papers yet. We still haven't got approval from the township yet, so I don't think any of those discussions have been made.
Okay, because I didn't know when in the development process you would make that decision. For example, the areas that we were just talking about, like the site restoration area and the pipeline area and those two rectangular areas. You know, you haven't stated, but to me, it sounds like those would likely be HOA maintained areas, whereas,
Any pipe, any easement where the utility is in, unless it's a private utility like Aqua, the sanitary sewer will be dedicated to Newtown Township Sewer Authority, but all storm, all basins, that'll be maintained by the HOA as required by the township.
okay.
I'm sorry, my bad. Would you please state your name for the record, please?
Sure. My name is James M. Gade, civil engineer for Stantec.
Thank you. Got it. Anything else
Is that
we forgot?
GAGE?
GADE.
GADE, okay.
Anything else, Carol? Do you have any comments, concerns? Rob?
Not good.
Okay. So are we ready to, do you feel that we have enough information in order to make a recommendation?
You do, we do.
Sure. What's your recommendation?
Okay. So I'd like to, I would like to recommend approval with conditions. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Stoney Knoll 17 lot plan with conditions. And those conditions are, as we discussed, slowly, that the street trees be the responsibility of the HOA. Is there kind of, you can do that, right? Because there's street trees.
I think the street trees will be responsibility. of
Okay.
the HOA.
All right, great. Okay, fantastic. Okay, I wasn't sure. Go straight that. All right, so then let me back up. Then the replacement trees, the applicant will consider options to minimize the number of replacement trees that will be placed on private property and place potential additional trees along the replacement trees to augment the street trees along Wayland Road and potentially within the green space. Consider planting trees within the site restoration area. And the landscape architect will work with the township arborist to, with respect to the site planting plan. Correct. And the species per species. Does that sound okay, Andy? Okay. All right. Do I have? Want a
You-
second? I made the
You,
motion.
you said the HOA, right? But they say the HOA isn't.
No, I said for the
about-
street trees, the
Right.
HOA, and they said the street, that the HOA has responsibility for the street trees.
So we don't need that.
So I struck that part. I don't have anything about the HOA in my motion.
Okay. So it's,
So it's just a minimal, minimal.
you just want to disperse the trees more throughout the property
Mhm.
and basically it,
Yeah,
and change the
And-
species to like 10%.
yes. Oh, that was it too. Sorry. And I'm sorry, what was the ratio? No greater than 10% of the same species. So we're increasing diversity. Placing.
That's all relative what's available at the time anyway. There's always change order because you
Sure.
can't get stuff. Trust me, I well to know that.
Yes, but that's okay. Did you get it? Okay. All right. Made a motion. Does someone want to?
That's it, right? You're
Second
done?
it?
Second the motion to approve it under those conditions.
Okay,
I agree.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so the motion passes with approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you
Alright.
very much.
Thank you.
The hurdles are getting less and less, so I don't look, I don't think this is a big deal, so I can get my landscape architect in touch with you next week. Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much for coming. This really,
Yeah. Thank you very much.
thank you again. I appreciate you coming. Okay.
they're doing what are they doing now? Aren't they doing the sewer thing down Old Main?
They were installing. I would have to believe it. Well, they came in for. They were trying to get. Came in for approval for that, first day.
I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest
We
with
would
you.
expect that.
I don't, that was done, yes, that was done through the municipal authority.
I know.
So the municipal authority kind of ran that whole project from start to finish because it's all associated. There's a whole segment of, yes, that's all being dealt with. I mean, there was portions of it that went through the court systems because they had to renegotiate the access points with the landowner. So there's a whole history and I'll be totally honest with you. I'm probably not the best one to explain it to you because I've been in small parts of it, but out for the majority of it. Yeah.
It's like, they cut the trees, I knew they were cut trees that.
Right.
They had to get. A couple weeks. It rained,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it looked like.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we got a trench.
Right.
So I'm like. What they say.
When you see that, you can call somebody.
Yeah.
When you see that, you need to call somebody.
Well, yeah.
They can't do it that way, everybody.
2 weeks ago, it's too late.
No, it's not.
Your standard of care as a shade tree commission member. my friend.
It's gone by that time.
Well,
Standard of care.
I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't remember this committee looking at that. I really don't. You did. I don't remember.
I know the EAC.
There was, I will say this, there was a greater need for sewer.
Oh, definitely. I have no problem with it cutting the
And I
road.
think that was what created, they had to expedite it. So I don't know if I've ever legitimately have laid eyes on a plan showing the outline of that road. Here again, that was done by the authority and through their procedures. I'm
Right.
just glad that you remember that this committee saw it.
I thought we saw something.
They were.
I mean, it might have been a year ago, but I thought we saw something.
Yeah, now I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember. And I do know they had to go through conditional use for the impact of the steep slopes as well. So there was
Well, I don't think that was part of Garrett
definite
Williamson, wasn't it?
definite procedural township committees and formalities that they had to go through. I just don't know that I could put my hands, if I went upstairs and put my hands on a plan and I could show
I might even have it in here.
you.
All my plans in here. Yeah, I didn't know. I just saw them doing it. The same thing down there on 252, they're doing it.
Right.
Cutting through the swamp there. I don't know what they're,
252?
and Haley,
I mean. That Rob. Don, what was,
I don't know what was approved.
okay, but you saw something that
You suspect.
Concern you.
concerned you. Activate. Someone to go.
We could sure did, yeah. We did bring it. He told her how to get it. Yeah.
I did tell somebody right now. Busy man, I can't do,
You can pick
I-
up the phone.
I forget by the time. I get 5 miles up the road.
We're close. That's-
I know.
Bad, yeah.
Okay, so since we want to get back on the agenda here, I guess. So we have, next up is report from the EAC.
Cindy Mahalo, 87 Hunters Run, EAC liaison to the Shade Tree Commission. Earlier this week, well, the topic is the fall tree giveaway. And I'll report on the progress we've made since the last meeting. Both EAC and Shade Tree explored the possibility of funding available this year to purchase larger trees. And both inquiries were unsuccessful as the budgets have already been set and are half spent and nothing has been allocated for that. So looking ahead to the future, the tree planting subcommittee, which is from the EAC, Janet Carvanis and myself, and from Shade Tree, John Rice and Carol Wagner, had our second meeting earlier this week, where we discussed the fact that if the township would like to pursue distributing trees, like a tree giveaway to residents in 2024, and that those trees would be of a significant size, then that should be budgeted for. And that we would work together to come up with a budget request using the new form that's been developed. And we think that that budget request, for the time being, maybe should originate from Shade Tree. Tricia will get something to you, and John had done some research on tree costs. And I watched a very informative webinar hosted by Birdtown, Pennsylvania, in which 4 or 5 local municipalities each shared in detail how they had conducted their tree giveaways, and they all gave away substantial trees, like 5-gallon trees, and they gave away hundreds and hundreds of trees, and the budgets were anywhere from like 10 to 20,000, and some even gave away like mulch with the trees. So anyhow, we're going to put together like a budget proposal for something like that for fall of 2024, and I think it should come from Shade Tree, but my personal opinion is that you should not fund it. To me, the township's goal of planting 1,000 trees is part of their MS4 pollution reduction plan, and thus it should be encompassed in whatever stormwater management budget they have, wherever that comes from. That's just my thought, and we discussed it amongst ourselves, and nobody objected to that. And also looking ahead, now would be the time to look into other funding mechanisms, such as the Tree Vitalize grant program, where you can get thousands of dollars and do a combined shrub tree planting. And that grant cycle comes around once a year. And, you know, it's kind of a long range planning thing. We've missed it for this year, but we should be on alert for future years.
What month does the notice go out? Do you remember?
I don't have that with me. I don't
Okay.
remember. All right, but I can get that to you.
So now, would that be something that does the township have we don't have a grant writer, right? Yet, or maybe, or you have someone on staff that sort of does, or?
I've been told that I've asked that same question multiple times. Most recent answer is that the grant writer is going to provide what I would call boilerplate language that then can be slotted in to grant proposals, because the assumption is that many grants ask for a lot of the same basic information about the township, but then the township would have to take the lead on crafting whatever language is specific to a particular grant. In my experience, that's the bulk of the work. So I'm not sure how much value this unknown grant writer is going to provide. Personally, I've written a tree vitalized grant that was successful. Bruce and I wrote it.
Mhm.
So we've been there, done that. I can dig out the one we used for Brookside Park.
Okay.
Anyhow, we can be a resource for that.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yep.
I've written plenty of grants myself, so. Sure.
So for this fall, it looks like we're back to where we started, which was distributing these small free trees from Keystone 10 million. And there was actually a webinar today, which they publicized yesterday, which I happened to be available to participate on. And they talked a lot about the logistics for this year and species list. And, you know, I think that's still a viable option. I expressed concern about the size of the tree, and I wanted to confirm that we're not going to get the inky dinky ones that they gave out in the spring, that we're going to get the size we got last fall. I know the tree planting subcommittee, whatever, has concerns that these, you know, tubex or plantra tubes are very unaesthetic, unappealing, and will be a deterrent to a number of homeowners. So a thought came to me was, you know, there's nothing saying that if someone gets a free tree, they have to use the plant, the tubex that they get. It's just given to them as a convenience. So, you know, we could say, buy your own stake and netting or something. And if you don't like the look of the tube, we're still giving you the free tree. Now it's a small tree, but you could find a different way to protect it if you don't like the look. Or if you don't like the look, then you don't have to participate. But our intent is to move ahead and put together a proposal. Carol and I are the only ones in town right now, so it'll probably just be her and me next week. But it seems that the way to proceed with this would be to sketch out how we envision this happening. And to me, there is no cost of this to the township. But if the township acts as a host and a publicizer and a coordinator of it, the township is not going to have to spend any money in making any purchases. It may have labor time if public works folks help on the day of distribution or picking up. But knowing how the township likes to have kind of a hand on everything, it seems like before the EAC or the shade tree starts going out to publicize this, we need the Board of Supervisors' blessing. And it might also involve some content on maybe your part of the website. That's how a lot of other municipalities have done it, is they put the tree list, they put the order form, you know, the benefits, how to plant a tree. So it's really self-contained. You drive people, when you publicize it, you drive them to this web page, and there they find a form where they like pre-register what species they would like. They can read about the different species. They can register the proposed planting location. So I think the next step would be, like I said, to put together a plan, get your blessing on it, and then get the Board of Supervisors to give their blessing.
Sounds great. Yeah, that sounds great.
Cindy, what was the name of that? Said the small trees were getting them from Eastern Tendon? Got it, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Anything? Report from the arborist? Okay.
I have a question about that, since you're talking about Lissitor and trees and the handover from Toll Brothers to the HOA. Two people from Lissitor have spoken to me and us about this. One is John Rice, who lives there. And he said that he's aware that homeowners are very interested in having more trees planted. And we also had two residents come to the last couple EAC meetings who live in Lissitor and are personally very interested in a number of aspects related to landscaping, but also to the trees. And I would just be interested to hear from you as the township arborist, if you could just brief me, because they said they're kind of in the transition time from the HOA, from
Well, I
the
can give-
builder.
I can give you the short story about the training. Yeah. Deals with Knoll and the township. But prior to anything to do with the township, I did the entire study of this.
Wait, like when was that? Like 5 years ago?
Prior to me starting here.
Which was
3 years ago?
okay. Okay, so, and what was that you did?
Study. Upper. Metal and I did it.
And is that a public document? Okay, but you, as who provided it to who?
I did.
Of the HOA. Okay, so the HOA has this, which sounds like an extremely valuable document. And it's called the Total Tree Study. And that was provided to the HOA, the Lissitor HOA. And what you said, that was like 3 years ago? But like, so when in the whole planting and handoff would that have been? Like, would that have been theoretically after they planted all?
So, I did. I don't know that I was already.
Okay, and the HOA engaged you. Oh, okay, so that was not through your role as arborist. Oh, okay.
It was free.
Okay, and so who hired you for that? And like, when in the whole process was this, like just halfway through, towards the end? Like, was it at a milestone in
Still going on, it's gonna
the,
be. It's a 10-year project.
They start the transition when
No, there should be.
reaches 51%.
No, this is the drainage is for the HOA project.
Right.
Yeah, right.
what is a 10-year project
Gave them a 10.
to do what?
Maintain the trees.
Okay. Okay, so they have a 10-year tree management project. That's good to know.
They haven't even gone out to bid yet.
Or, so they already have a plan to do care and planting. Yeah, I think these homeowners don't even know that.
Probably not.
Manager of,
The HOA.
HOA.
okay,
Management. On the Paul Krista Welsh.
he is. I'm actually meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Coffee with these people. So, okay. And she's with First Service. Thank you very much. Yeah, no,
They're welcome. All the managers, they give that I give.
but to know what has happened, what's going on will be very helpful, and they as residents should be able to contact their HOA. Okay, thanks.
tune of 2.5 million.
Be lost.
Going on.
All right, awesome. All right, great. Thanks. Okay. All right, so next on the agenda then is, well, we don't have any permits to approve. So, we've already done the land development review and a future land development review. We don't have any action. So new business, we have the budget request form. And the 2024 budget. So, some of the things that we talked about, you know, which of course we heard as a recommendation is to have put in the budget for purchasing of trees for 2024 for the fall. Maybe tree giveaway, another one, right? Is that correct? Yep. Okay. And then we had talked about too, about do we need, so each one of us should have a tool to measure DBH. That was something that John suggested.
Forward.
Yeah. Forgot what it's called.
Be measured.
DBH tape? Okay. And so do we have an idea of, can you recommend a source and a rough price?
I can just order them.
Okay. All right. Well, we need to put in the request to the budget.
So put it in your, I think.
Okay. Okay. All right, that's at least a number to start with. Okay, and then, so how, let's see, so I guess we're gonna do under. So what we don't have on here though is the,
Budget, right?
I know, but I was just thinking about the tree inventory. And would it be possible maybe to have another iPad? Well, we know that, but I got that.
Heather, stop.
Is it possible, maybe, should we I guess I'm asking you all, should we consider requesting maybe?
Sure.
So that. Then that way we can have two teams working for doing the inventory.
We also need a banner.
For what?
For when we do
I
outreach.
know. Circle in the square.
Oh, and the farmer's market.
Yeah.
So what I was sort of thinking we could do is come up with little, so if we're doing the tree giveaway, I have the QR code. Give that away at the farmer's market so that people will go to the website. Name tag,
Shirts.
want a shirt?
Yeah. Well, supervisors have shirts with their names on it.
You said something about the website. When I went on the website to see where we might add information about a tree giveaway, there's information on there from a tree thing like 2 years ago through the high school that you might look, and it's probably no longer relevant. I tried clicking the link and it didn't go anywhere.
Can you send me the link where you found it? Because I can't find anything on the township website. Okay. And we can ask even Bradley to to take care of that. Okay. Anything else that you can think of requesting that we need? My stomach is growling. Can you think of, is there anything you can think of, Rob?
Of course.
All right.
Side by side.
Just ask George for that one. All right. Okay, so. So what I could use help with though is coming up for some of these figures so that we could put it into the,
You have to itemize everything and pricing.
I know.
We have to have somebody that works for the township.
All right.
True.
That's good. All right. Okay, well. Somebody, all right, so who wants to be responsible for the budget request form?
We each have one. We just have to get the thinkers.
Okay.
I've never written up a budget. That's the thing.
We haven't done it, but not like this.
We'll find out the information.
Okay.
When do this have to be in for?
When I did it for the fire company, you just told them like, on a piece of paper, and I want this for next year, and you added it at the board of directors.
June 1st.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was June because they're gonna start working on the budget in July. So, okay, so, June 1st is like next week.
First is first.
Good, Heather, done names out. Who did it?
I mean, it's really, what do you think? Educational tools, working tools.
Okay. All right.
I got a good computer guy that can do it.
He knows a guy.
I know a guy.
Okay, all right, so how about? We start voluntolding. All right, so trees for the fall planting, you and John Rice work on that. Since you have an in at the township, how about if you find out how much the banner name tag and shirts would be?
Like that on something.
All right, and then, we'll look at brochures too. I'm adding that to your list.
No, thanks.
I'm adding it to your list. All right, and then I'll work on the iPad and the software stuff. Okay? Okay, and so when is the next, Heather, when is the next meeting of the committees, committee chairs, and do you remember off the top of your head? Okay. Okay.
You really want to know? You ever read your emails?
Yes,
You already
I
got
do. I just don't want to do it right here. We're in the middle of a meeting. I just couldn't remember off the top of my head. I thought somebody might. Anywho, not a big deal. All right, so let's shoot. Because we're not gonna have it done by so let's shoot for June 5th. So before our next, so let's have these number ready so that prior to our June meeting, we have the information and then we can pull out we can discuss it and then we can take action on it and then I guess submit it. I guess we gotta take action on it. All right. The 29th.
That's what it says.
It does say that. Oh, okay. It never said June. Okay, well, that's even better. All right. Okay. Yes. Yep, Rob
Way ahead of you.
found it. Thank you. Thank God. All right. All right. Okay, so we have it, I'm putting this due date on ourselves as the 15th, as a 70% reasonable. I don't, I can't remember. Old school. Give us time to. Yeah, let's do it by the 16th. June 16th is gonna be our. June 16th will be our deadline. For the budget. And then I'll put it together. So if you guys can get me those numbers, then I'll get it together. And then I'll have it ready for the June 22nd shade tree meeting, and then we can get it submitted. Okay.
Sure you want. All right.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
By June what?
16th, Friday. Okay,
Friday.
you need to get the information to me by that Friday, then I can work on it over the weekend and then get it ready for our June 22nd meeting.
29. Oh,
Oh, no, for our shade tree meeting on the 22nd, and then the 29th is the committee meeting. Okay. All right. Old business. Solicitor
I spoke to him.
review.
put them at the polls.
We're just update, have a little bit of it.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know how positive it is, but I will tell you that I did reach out to Mr. Stewart again today. Didn't hear back, but told that Township did hire, we have an intern now. Actually, and knowledgeable grant writing, he's knowledgeable in ordinance writing.
Okay.
So he has been working on that. I don't know necessarily with what direction, but I do know that part of his role is to update that particular. So,
Yeah, it'd be great to find out what his
but I.
direction is to, and how to update, and what parts of it, I guess.
Well, I put it out again, actually after our last meeting and then
Uh-huh,
more recently to try to schedule that call that you
Okay.
had asked for, a Zoom
yeah,
meeting. I just haven't had any luck.
okay, no worries.
Yeah, I spoke to him at the polls. He said he's really busy with all these
Yeah.
plans and everything.
There's a lot, I mean, there's.
He's like, he'll lighten up in June-ish. So we should like stay on him about it. That maybe in June, latter part of June or something, we can, what? Yeah, this year. I told him that. I said, it's been 2 years. I said, just a few things we want you to review. So,
Well,
I mean, he's aware of
there
it.
is some
He didn't
direction.
forget. He
Good.
does know.
Yeah, obviously, there is some direction being given to that young man
Okay,
to be working on.
all
Now,
right.
he just started on Monday. So. He's
So.
fresh out, he's fresh out. But I
All
think
right.
He's a student in Westchester.
Believe so.
Yeah.
All right, that's great. And I've been working on some things, I think there was a lot of good lessons learned from our exercise here with the review of Stoney Knoll. And so I have some thoughts, I've been putting down some of those bullet points that you had talked about, and I had been looking at some of the other ordinances that you suggested, John, and so I have some thoughts, and it would be great to maybe,
I think the other thing we have to hone in on, if you don't mind,
Yes.
is just procedurally how you coordinate each of you, your individual comments with John himself.
Mhm.
So when the committee produces a review letter, it's like, it's clear, comprehensive to the applicant at one time, right?
Mhm.
You're going to have you may have multiple reviews, but each review letter will go out under Mr. Hochbach's,
So, but what the ordinance says though, is that the commission is supposed to write a letter to the planning board.
But I think you're also, I think, yes, that's what the letter, that's what the specific reading
Mhm.
of it says. But you have a professional here for that purpose.
Right.
So
So
it's not to diminish your thoughts and involvement
Mhm.
in reviewing the plan. Certainly.
They do that's my letter.
right. So I mean, what we did in this one is that I never sent anything directly to the applicant. That's not appropriate.
Right.
I mean, I forwarded everything to John. And so if there is a format or something like that that we should follow, I did put together it's kind of a checklist, and it was more for me just because there's so many pieces of the ordinance I had to keep track of. It was just easier for me to put it all in a Word document, which I know that's on old business here, which is the review letter, because the one that the township drafted is just not adequate to really do what's required under the ordinance.
So how do you get those comments to John? I don't think has to be under the strict letter of the law. You know what I mean? I think
They have everybody else.
Oh, yeah, no,
You have. Me.
right,
They incorporated.
right, exactly.
It's done for all.
Okay, yeah, all right. And then, because I hadn't seen any comments from anyone else. So,
And then ultimately, when they appear before you, they have the luxury of having that review,
mhm,
digesting it, and coming to the committee with an answer.
right,
You would hope that that's what they would have.
yeah,
Have an answer, and maybe their plans, depending upon timing, haven't been, don't accurately reflect that. But just like we did here this evening,
mhm,
the object is because of that 90-day time clock, that's what is all consuming, we're obligated to meet that.
mhm,
Thankfully, with other things and extenuating circumstances, they were able to grant us that extension of time on their behalf. So it all worked out.
mhm.
I mean, it was a good trial run using this smaller project as good as an example. But I think ultimately, there may be a time when the committee and the developer don't always agree.
Mhm.
I think at that point in time, you just have to decide to make a recommendation. And sometimes that recommendation is going to be positive, and sometimes it's going to be negative.
Mhm.
Or sometimes, like this evening, it'll be positive with certain conditions. And then it's just a matter of that becoming part of the record and being ultimately put forward to the board.
Right, yeah, and I mean, and I certainly don't want to put the board in a position where they're the bad guy, so, so I think we need to be careful on some of
But
that.
at the same time, you have a committee is charged with certain duties, and in fulfillment of those duties, that's why it's a recommendation.
Right,
It's
Exactly.
ultimately, they make that decision, but you're offering them a recommendation.
right, so did everything go appropriately in your
I
opinion?
thought so.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought so.
All right, excellent, okay. And I thought that was helpful. I mean, the thing that I'm finding a struggle is that, we were given these plans on Monday, and then our meeting was here, and it was great that he could be here because obviously I had a lot of questions. John had a lot of questions.
And went over those things. And so where a lot of the things. I can
Mhm.
However, I said, dude, you got this book on Monday. Here's the deal, if you don't come Thursday, there's a good chance. Won't be seeing you.
Yeah.
Clock's ticking, I think. There's a clock that's ticking. I'm paid, right?
Mhm.
And we need to give answer.
Sure.
Whether it's deny or.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I think we were prepared to do that.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, I think it all worked out. By all means. I think this was the first real experience we've all had as a committee, putting it all together. And when we're dealing with the land development. process.
Right, yeah, it really tested the legs
I
of
think
it.
it'll even get smoother as the more you see, the more we go through this process, the easier it becomes.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it was great and I had a lot of tutelage from Cindy, so thank you.
Very helpful. I mean, I really like the idea of everybody having involvement.
Mhm.
It's just getting that basic understanding of how urgent things are. And sometimes you have to make decisions off of plans that you got on Monday that aren't technically incomplete. So I think it's important if there's deficiencies that you feel are important that haven't been addressed. If we got to get it out of committee and get it before the planning commission to move forward, you got to identify those things in that action memo.
Right, okay.
You know, that's what it's for.
Okay, all right, excellent. So regarding the action memo, so do I need to write this up right now and then get it to Heather so that she can give it to, so it's, what time's that? Starts at 7? Oh, God. All right, let's keep going here, people. All right, all right, so the land development application review sheet, I submitted something to you, Heather, right? And then so we need to get that, remember that was that multi-page document that, so, and then I'd asked, how do we get that approved? And it has to, I guess, go through Steve. So we're gonna table that one. We talked about the fall planning. We're doing that, I think, right? We all agreed, we agreed last time to do that, so I don't think we need to take action on it again, do we? Nope, okay, good. Arbor Day, yay, went well. All right, great job. It was muddy and fun. Oh, farmers market. So I guess that might be a really good opportunity for us to get the word out about the fall tree giveaway if we're gonna do that. So maybe we should.
That's next Friday.
June through when? September, okay. So maybe if we shoot for, I don't know how many slots, is there gonna send around like the sign up again or? Okay. All right, yeah, if you could let me know and then maybe we can pick a couple of dates once a little further out, maybe once plans get a little more solid on the fall planting. Or we can, you know, like ride the coattails of the EAC when they're there or somebody else or one of the other committees. Probably won't be a problem. Okay. Newsletter article. Okay. So there's been some lately in the news about some new diseases, well, not new diseases, but the beach. So maybe, I don't know, that could be a topic for one of them if you're looking for topics.
I was saying, a short review of Arbor Day and tell people to look for the
Perfect.
tree thing.
Yes, do that. All right, great. Okay. Do we have any commission comments? No? Okay. Items for next agenda. Fall planting. Tree inventory,
Solicitor.
solicitor update. The land development application review sheet. Budget. Okay. I think that's enough. Okay,
And the farmer's market.
and the farmer's market. Any public comment? You good? All right. All right. I almost slammed it on. All right, meeting adjourned.
35.
6:35. All right.